Welcome to the Prophecy Club. We're going to be listening to the audio of some of Lindsey Williams' best DVDs. Now, in case you're not familiar with Lindsey, he served as a missionary on the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline for some 3 years. He became friends with some of the elite that ruled the world. He stays in touch. They tell Lindsey what their plans are, and he tells you in these DVDs. And we're offering 3 of his very best DVDs valued at $106, all for a gift to the ministry of just $38 or more. Now, that's basically order 1, get 2 free. That's really a good deal, and it's called the July gift offer. Now let's go on over and listen to Lindsey Williams in one of these 3 DVDs.
I promised that when my elite friend gave me information about the coming collapse, that I would let you know. I'm quite sure that most of you obtained this DVD because you would like to know when that collapse is going to take place. I have a question for you. Which collapse? That may sound surprising to you because most people, the only thing they think about is the Federal Reserve note, money, what's going to happen to the banks, when will the banks close. There are numerous other pending collapses that are going to affect your life as much or more than the closing of the American banks. Now, I will answer your question because I'm quite sure that you want to know when that which is of most interest to most people is going to take place. All right, I will answer your question first. And then after I do, answer the question about what I think most people think is most important. Then I will get down to the facts of what really is most important. I was just in touch with my elite friend a matter of days ago. Keep in mind that for 37 years, they have never told me anything that it did not happen exactly like they said it. All of these things are planned behind closed doors. They know exactly what's going to happen, and it doesn't always happen the way that the media tells you or that the average person in the world today thinks it is going to happen. My elite friend has told me when the elite will create the great financial event. May I say crash? Possibly that would be the word that most people would use for it. My elite friend has given me a time frame. Now please notice my wording carefully because I did not say date. My elite friend has given me a time frame. Even they themselves do not know the exact date as to which this is going to happen yet. Please, after you have heard what my elite friend has told me, please do not turn off this DVD just because you have a time when the next great collapse is going to take place. You must have an explanation. Otherwise, you'll completely misinterpret what the elite are saying. I have to be very careful whenever I'm listening to what they have to say because oftentimes I have to ask what's the background to information in order to be able to interpret just exactly what they're saying. Now, I think you will watch this over and over again. You probably will back this DVD up and get this definition that I'm about to give you. And this is the first time this has ever been given. I have never given this on a radio show. I've told it nowhere. I wanted to make this DVD and have it recorded before I ever state it in public anywhere. In fact, I have not even told a number of talk show hosts who have contacted me within the past few days and have wanted to know what my elite friend told me, and I have refused to tell them. You are the first one getting this. Here it is. You ready? Here is exactly when it will happen. The collapse will take place after the Affordable Health Care Bill is fully implemented. Now, please, let's look at this carefully. This Affordable Health Care Bill is very, very important to the elite, much more so than the average person is even giving any thought to. For the past 2 years, I have been a lone voice. Many of you recognize this. I have said things completely contrary to what the newsletters are saying, to what the commentators are saying, to what the national news media is saying, and especially of what the patriot community is saying. You remember that 2 years ago, one of my talk show hosts, very prominent talk show hosts, called me and said, "Chaplain, when is the collapse going to take place? Will you please go and ask your elite friend?" I did. And he kind of laughed and he said, "Chaplain, the collapse is not going to take place in the next 3 months." Well, I came back on the talk show. After all, the talk show host had been saying, "Oh, it's going to take place on this date. It's going to happen in October. October surprise." Then they came around to January. "Oh, it's going to happen January the 1st. This has been going on for 2 solid years. That the major newsletter writers, the people who are writing the books, the talk show hosts, and I would go back to them and I would say, it's not going to happen yet. Folks, do you realize, if you heard me on a talk show 2 years ago, that exactly what my elite friend told me has happened exactly as he said it is going to happen for 2 years' time, with all the forecast and doom and gloom that has been issued out there? The collapse has not taken place yet. For 2 years' time, let me say again, I have been a lone voice, and sometimes it's not easy to be a lone voice. And I would go back to my elite friend and I would say, "When is it going to happen?" Well, I've done that now. And the first time that I have gotten a true definition that I could give to you is right now. Why the elite are not ready yet. Now please try to understand this. Not yet. Here again, I'm a lone voice. Everywhere they're saying it's going to happen in 3 months, going to happen in 6 months. The elite have not created enough debt yet. Put it simply and plain, I don't know any other way to say it. Gradually, they are making slaves out of you and me and everybody in this world. And they're doing it so slowly that you're missing it. And you're not taking any action. And you're bowing down to what they said. Over 4 years ago, you will remember that my elite friend said something. Now, those of you, again, who have listened to radio shows or you've gone to lindseywilliams.net, you've heard this said. A little over 4 years ago, I was on the phone with my elite friend who now has died and has passed away. His name was Mr. Fromm. And I remember on that conversation, I didn't have the slightest idea what I was hearing. He said to me, he said, "Chaplain, there's something going to be presented before Congress before long, and it's going to be a health care bill." And I said, "Yeah, I've gotten wind of it a little bit. What's it all about?" He said, "Chaplain, this is not a health care bill." I'll never forget his statement. I had not the slightest idea at that time of the ramifications of what this man was saying. He knew. He'd already read the bill. He knew behind closed doors everything that was in that bill. He knew what I have just found out within the past few days, and that is that this health care bill is key to what the elite are going to do. It is connected in a relationship with what the elite are going to do in bringing about a financial collapse and when they will do it. This is not a health care bill, is what he said to me. I didn't have the slightest idea that it had nothing at all to do with it. Instead, it has to do with, well, first of all, I tried to get him to explain, and he did. First of all, there was the Patriot Act. It had to be passed. And you know how it came about after 9/11. Then the health care bill was put in place. And his statement to me was, he said, "Chaplain, the health care bill is the final straw. It is the total control factor. It is the one thing that will bring about a complete control, the name of the game is control." I've said this for 37 years. And this will bring about the completion of what they want to do. The elite must have total control before they can bring about a collapse of the system. Now, let's examine this affordable health care bill for a moment or two, because you can't imagine the importance of this. And when my elite friend said, Chaplain, the collapse will take place, let me repeat it once again because I don't want to have to go into it anymore in the course of this presentation. And he said to me, he said, Chaplain, the collapse will take place after, do you catch this word? After the Affordable Health Care Bill has been implemented is when it will take place. Now, let's examine this Affordable Health Care Bill for a moment or two. When is it going to be implemented? Now go back, think carefully with what you've heard from the news media lately. First of all, it was supposed to have been implemented as of January the 1st of 2014. Then our president, Mr. Obama, changed all of that. He altered things just not too long ago. The president said there will be a change. We're going to exempt businesses and corporations from having to do certain things until January the 1st of 2015. Now, are you catching this?
We'll be right back after this message. In 1980, an angel came to Dmitri Duduman and told him that it is written in the Bible and that America will be defeated in 1 hour by Russia. I just made a brand new DVD covering all of the secular, real-life proof that Russia really is preparing to do exactly that. Topics are: Arise, Devour Much Flesh, Russia in Prophecy, Russia Now Rich and Strong, Russia's numerous military expansions, Ukraine, and how it is making the bear angry. Russia is warning the U.S., but we're not listening. Russia is building their military, modernizing submarines, aircraft, missiles, and their army, while the U.S. is downsizing and filled with traitors and weaknesses. 2.5 hours, gift of $30. Go to prophecyclub.com or call 785-266-1112. That's The Russian Bear Rises at prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. Order today. It's time for the famous Prophecy Club Summer Blowout. You get 6 DVDs of your choice by calling 785-266-1112. Valued at $30 each, that's $180, all for a gift of just $100. Call 785-266-1112. Grab your cell phone, 785-266-1112. Not available on the internet. 785-266-1112. 6 DVDs for a gift of $100. Call now. And now, back to the program.
From having to do certain things until January the 1st of 2015. Now, are you catching this? I have told you that the elite have not put in place enough debt yet. They want more Detroits. Are you catching this? They want more failure. They want more big companies to fail. And as a result, Mr. Obama said, we're not going to fully implement this until January the 1st, not 2014, 2015. Now, notice the importance of this. The elite are not ready for a collapse. The financial collapse will not take place on January the 1st of 2014. Please, I hope you're not going to quote me incorrectly. This is the reason I asked you to listen to the rest of this DVD, because unless you hear it all, you won't understand. If you just take my one statement as to what my elite friend told me, which is going to determine whether your family survives or not. And later on in the course of this DVD, I will tell you things that you positively must do before January the 1st of 2014, not 2015, but before January the 1st of 2014. And if you don't, your family will suffer tremendously, and you will not survive this crash. I know you've said now the implementation of this goes all the way up to 2014. The financial collapse will not take place on January the 1st, 2014. They want more debt. There positively must be a failure of pension funds. They must have more Detroits. They've got to have a Chicago. They want more people on welfare. They want you totally dependent on them before they bring the collapse about. They want you so dependent that you can't do one thing about it when they actually decide to close the banks, bring about a collapse of the American dollar, and collapse the system altogether worldwide. And they will do it altogether worldwide at one time. They are not ready yet. But you positively must take certain precautions and preparations before January the 1st of 2014, or your family will be in trouble.
Meet Uncle Sam. He has a lot of bills to pay. Almost $4 trillion worth every year. Uncle Sam's income is a little over $2 trillion per year. To make up the difference, the deficit, he does what most Americans do. He borrows money. When Uncle Sam takes out a loan, he calls it a bond. Bonds can be held by banks, investors, or even foreign governments. Uncle Sam has to promise to pay interest on these bonds, just as you do on any loan you take out. Ever think about paying your mortgage with your credit card? That's exactly what Uncle Sam does. He takes out new loans, new bonds, so that he can make payments on the old ones. All those loans, and especially all that interest, adds up. Right now, Uncle Sam owes about $14 trillion. To put that in perspective, 14 trillion is about the same as the national GDP, the total value of all the goods and services produced by the American economy in an entire year. It's such a huge amount of money that Uncle Sam is starting to run out of people to borrow from, and he's having trouble just paying the interest on his loans. The obvious solution would be to either cut spending or increase taxes. But if he cuts spending, the people that he's spending money on would complain that they don't have money to spend, and that he was hurting the economy. If he tried to raise taxes enough to close this gap, not only would people definitely have less money to spend, he'd probably have riots on his hands. So Uncle Sam chooses the easy way to make money. Just make it. He calls up the Federal Reserve, which is our central bank, and, like magic, dollars are created and deposited in banks all around America. The problem is that the more of something there is, the less it's worth. Same goes for the US dollar. The more dollars there are, the less each one will buy. That's why commodities like gasoline, food, and gold become more expensive when Uncle Sam does his money-making magic. The commodities aren't really worth more. Your money is just worth less. That's called inflation. Remember the foreign governments that lent money to Uncle Sam? When they lent money to the American government, something interesting happened. It made the U.S. look richer, and their countries look poorer. When a country looks poor compared to America, $1 of our money buys a lot of their money. So they can pay their workers only a few pennies a day. With such low labor costs, they can sell their products in America for lower prices than any American manufacturer can. The easiest way for American companies to compete is to move their factories overseas and pay their workers a few pennies a day too. This contributes to a recession. Americans lose their jobs, stop paying taxes, and start collecting government benefits like Medicaid and unemployment. This means that Uncle Sam has even less income and even more expenses. At the same time, the people who still have jobs are desperate to keep them, so they tend to do more work, but not to get paid anymore. When your dollars are worth less, and you're not earning more of them, that's called stagflation. And this is why Uncle Sam is in a catch-22. He can't raise taxes or cut spending without making the recession worse. And he can't have the Federal Reserve create more money without making inflation worse. For now, he can keep borrowing money, but since he can't even pay the interest on the loans he already has, it just makes his inevitable bankruptcy even worse. Whether it's in 2 months or 2 years, The day will come when Uncle Sam can no longer pay his bills. When that happens, the banks, investors, and foreign governments who are counting on that money won't be able to pay their bills. You see, just like Uncle Sam, governments, banks, and corporations don't actually have much money. Mostly, all they have is debt to each other. If one link in the debt chain stops paying, defaults, the whole thing falls apart. If investors can't pay their bills, corporations won't be able to pay their employees. If banks can't pay their bills, you won't be able to take out a loan, use a credit card, or even withdraw your savings. If foreign governments can't pay their bills, their own banks and corporations will have the same problems. That's called a global economic collapse. It's never happened before, so nobody really knows how bad it will be, how long it will last, or even how we'll eventually get out of it. The house of cards has already been built. There's no painless way to dismantle it now. All we can do is to educate each other about what's actually going on, and to prepare for what may be very extraordinary circumstances.
A reduction in the stock market of a few hundred points or maybe even 1,000 points is not a collapse. When gold prices drop $300 to $500, maybe even $600 to $700, that is not a collapse. A drop of all of these things cannot be classified as a collapse. What is a collapse as the elite think about it? When the banks close, when you lose your money, when the dollar collapses, this is a collapse. Someone put it very well. I think probably the best of any I've ever heard. But it was over 200 years ago when he put it this way. But it's almost as if it's prophetic. Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence, the co-author of the Constitution of the United States of America, the third President of the United States of America. I want to read his statement, and then I'll go back and pick out the points exactly as it's happening today. He said, quote, "I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation and then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers have conquered." Now, let me go back and pick out this because it's almost as if he had spoken prophetically. Number one, he said, I believe that banking institutions, now these are private banking institutions. This is not the Congress of the United States of America, which was told, and they didn't do it, told to coin money in the Constitution, and they gave up their job. They betrayed us many years ago. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks, the Federal Reserve is a private bank. It is not an agency of the government of the United States of America. It is privately owned and privately controlled. And he said, Thomas Jefferson, if private banks are ever allowed to control our currency. Now, currency. What is that? Federal Reserve note. It is not American money. It is not congressional money. It is fiat paper. And that piece of paper that's $1, it costs about the same thing to print a 5 or a 20 or a 50 or a 100. It is a total outright lie. It has no value except what it is perceived to have. They call it currency, and it is not. What is currency? Currency is what the Constitution of the United States of America told Congress to mint. Gold and silver. He said first by inflation, and then by deflation. QE1, QE2, QE3. This is prophetic almost. Isn't this amazing? This is inflation and deflation control on the part of the Federal Reserve, which are private banks, in controlling paper, fiat currency. And then he said, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them. What are they? Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Chase, Bank of America. You could go on and on. The banks that will grow up around this monster called private banks. They've grown up here, and we have them. Now they control us and the country. He said, this will deprive people of all property. Beginning a little over a year ago, the Federal Reserve, which is not even an agency of the federal government, it's a private bank, said, the economy is in such trouble, we are going to pull out of thin air every month $85 billion. That's right. No gold, no land, nothing. Congress didn't even give that permission. We're going to pull out of thin air $85 billion every month. They've been doing it for over 1 year. What are they doing with it? Please. Thomas Jefferson, it's amazing how God must have shown him some things. They pull it out of thin air, and what are they doing with it? They're buying mortgage-backed securities. What's that? They bought your house mortgage. They bought the mortgage to the shopping center down the road. And who owns it now? The Federal Reserve probably owns your house if it's mortgaged. And what did Thomas Jefferson say would happen? That our children will be deprived of all property. Right now, you are deprived of that property because if your house is mortgaged, you are going to lose it. Did you hear me? I've already been told this by my elite friend. He told me back many, many months ago. He said, Chaplain.
Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Lindsey Williams served as a missionary on the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline for 3 years. He became friends with some of the elite that ruled the world. They tell Lindsey, he tells you, the plans of the elite. We're offering 3 of his best DVDs valued at $106, all for a gift of just $38 or more. That's basically order 1, get 2 free. They are the elite plans for the crash. Lindsey gives you the signs to look for before the collapse of the banks and crash of the dollar. Plus, 2 more collapses that will affect you more than the collapse of the dollar. In Currency Revaluation, he explains the greatest event in the last 1,000 years is about how they're going to do away with the Federal Reserve note, bringing in a gold-backed Treasury Reserve note. And in Health Tips of the Elite, he says there is no reason that many people have to suffer from many of the diseases they do simply because they do not know what the elite know that is discussed in this DVD. All 3 DVDs, the Elite Plans for the Crash, Currency Revaluation, and Health Tips, valued at $106, available for a gift of just $38 plus shipping. It's the July gift offer. $38 plus shipping at prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. The July gift offer, prophecyclub.com. Order today. In 1980, an angel came to Dmitri Duduman and told him that it is written in the Bible and that America will be defeated in 1 hour by Russia. I just made a brand new DVD covering all of the secular, real-life proof that Russia really is preparing to do exactly that. Topics are Arise, Devour Much Flesh, Russia and Prophecy, Russia Now Rich and Strong, Russia's numerous military expansions, Ukraine, and how it is making the bear angry. Russia is warning the U.S., but we're not listening. Russia is building their military, modernizing submarines, aircraft, missiles, and their army while the U.S. is downsizing and filled with traitors and weaknesses. 2.5 hours, gift of $30. Go to prophecyclub.com or call 785-266-1112. That's The Russian Bear Rises at prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. Or